Hi YouTube, how's everybody doing? I'm having a pretty good day. It's sunshiny, a little cold, but it's all right. I don't have to really go out. I just went out and gave my horse a treat and came back in, so it's okay if it's cold. It's okay if they cut off my electric. We have wood. I feel sorry for the people that won't be able to really keep warm if they're in colder climates if something happens and if they run out of water and stuff. And I do have plenty to share with my neighbors, but most of my neighbors are, when we live out in the country, you're kind of like a prepper anyway because you have everything you need out here in case something does go wrong or bad. And when you're stuck, and I recall there's times when Doug would plow part of our road out, or neighbors would plow part, and so on down the line, like all five of us or whatever, three anyway, to get our kids out to the school bus, stuff like that. So if they missed a day of school, parents are responsible. It doesn't matter if the county or township would plow our road or not. It was still our responsibility. You know how they are, or you know. But anyway, till I took my kid out of school, my last one here, it's like no more of their crap. I thought, what am I doing? I've worked as a student teacher and a paraprofessional and everything else. What am I doing? Sending my kids to somebody else to learn God knows what. And it was those God knows what moments that made me pull my child out of school. So yeah. I've really been thinking a lot about the power of positive thinking now. That's something that society has really tried to confuse to keep people away from their power, your thoughts. Um, you know how people say, oh, think positive or you're negative or whatever. Kiss off people with that crap. People are negative and positive in every day under different circumstances. No matter what they're going through, you have a level of emotion on that. So when I say the power of positivity, I'm talking about mind over matter. Has nothing to do, well, it has a lot to do with the attitude, but it doesn't have anything to do with like, say, if you somebody were giving you shit and you gave them shit back and it sounded like a negative um statement or something. That's not what I'm talking about. It's about with this coronavirus and everything, like the placebo effect. um if you think you're not going to get sick, keeping God in your heart is a big deal. It really is. Understanding that how we conduct ourselves in our lives is the amount of help that we get from God, if that makes sense. From my outlook, it makes total sense because I've lived through it enough to know that when I'm a decent human being, things pretty much go my way. A person can, I mean, it's not like you're going to get everything you want in life because, at this point, Satan's still in control, but you might feel a funny change that things are changing as far as people if they were real hard asses, maybe they're softening up a little more than what they were or something like that. Um, I've noticed it. It's hard for them, but oh, I'll get back more on that positive thought aspect. Did anybody see picture of Trump recently? What he's looking like? and how this is weighing on him. See, because they know it's contrived, they know it's a bunch of lies. There's nothing new under the sun. There's no new viruses or aspects or anything aside from what they've already mixed up in their labs and the vaccines to go along with it to control the people. Whether people believe that or not, and I've tried to get people look up Agenda 2020 and Agenda 2030, which 2030 has been coming into play with certain parts of that. 2020, what falls under that is widespread panic with disease, house arrests, martial laws, curfews, that type of thing, and forced vaccines. That's part of the 2020. Part of the 2030, if I'm not mistaken, it could be 20, but I'm thinking this is 2030 because there was a couple on the list I recall that were still that were happening now. So they jumped ahead of time to implement things to keep more control over us. But I've talked about Project Bluebeam and how they use it's like a giant projector of holographic images in the sky and how they're going to use the aluminum in the sky to project images to scare the living daylights out of you, to make you believe that the world's getting attacked and God isn't going to help us. That's their number one goal, is for you not to believe in God. If they can do that, they've accomplished a whole big thing, because the more people don't believe that we have a creator, and of course we do, but the more people that feel lonely and lost, the happier they are. Because if you think about it, if you take, like, say, a stray dog walks into your yard and it's starving and it's lonely and lost and scared and it's going to be angry and upset, but you can control that animal with food, you know, and, well, love, of course. But people, living beings are easier to control if you can control what they see, what they eat, what they hear, if you can control everything in their environment, like their food and everything, then you have the control over them people. You know, I passed around a post in my community, Pine City community page, that said, don't bring fear and like lack of faith and fear into our village, like stay strong, that type of thing, because they're gonna they are playing out Revelation in the Bible, the last book of the Bible. Um, they're basically making come true what God had written through man's hearts. Only thing is, they don't realize that it actually is going to be real, and God wins in the end, and He takes control over everybody's hearts, even the bad ones. They're going to be shameful. They are. That's probably about the worst thing that's going to happen to them. But if, like me, you realize how bad being shameful to God is, how terrible that feels when we do something horrible and we don't think that there's any way out, that there's any way you could be forgiven, but you are, you know. But could you imagine feeling that horrible feeling forever? I mean, standing in shame forever, never being able to have a moment's rest of not knowing that you did something so hideous and didn't care right up until the end. That's what a lot of these so called elite, oh my God, I hate that. People calling these scum of the earth elite, it drives me batty. But to get a point across, a lot of the times that's the only way we can address them. But yeah. So a Facebook friend of mine put through. Not only is Italy on basically lockdown, now France is too. Of course, they're real close over there, so, you know, in circumference of the planet. So, yeah. Excuse me. Uh, yeah, I think it's really, really important that we keep God in our heart and keep our faith. Remember, somebody made us and they made us out of love. It might not have been your parents, it wasn't mine, you know, but um, the person who designed us, each individual spirit, our best parts that God loves, He made us, He created us. And we can't forget to, be thankful. I mean, see, now I'm a big one where these people are like, every day I give thanks, and it's like, yeah, well, you can go flip off with that too, because I'm thankful. I wake up every day. People say, well, I was thankful for two things, two gifts I opened today, my eyes. Well, that's all well and cool. I'm going to be a lot more thankful when my spirit isn't in pain anymore, and I get to literally hug God as His child. I'll be a lot more thankful. Yes, I'm thankful. I love the earth. I love the animals and the plants. Hate the bugs. Um, but thankful through the day, every day, not all day long, but at least once a day I am. So when people pass through these posts, if I'm bummed out right at that second, it's like, swipe it out of the way. This is real. This is reality of life. This positive all the time crap is what they're trying to confuse with the power of positive thinking, is what my point is, going back to that. Um, I don't know how else to explain it. I'll sit and maybe I can think of another way to make it absolutely clear of um, why they are pushing that so hard. That is one of the things that they're pushing or have been through the years. And then you, like I say, hear people, oh, you're being negative. Doug got that the other day. He was stating a fact about something. And somebody pulled that negative card bullshit on him. He's like, hey, I'm just stating a fact here. Why don't you just back down and let me talk to people. So he approached that the right way. So I got to say, I'm really proud of him. These few months he hasn't been drinking, and he's feeling better and looking better and easier to live with. So it makes a difference. It really does. Didn't last time because I don't think he really wanted to quit. And when he said he quit this time, it's like, don't do nothing for me, because it's not going to make any difference one way or another. Because, like, I'm not getting emotionally involved and really close with anybody ever again. I mean, my children, that's a given. And their offsprings, wives, whatever, loves in their lives, that's different. But, um, you know. But to actually, um, I'm not cold. I mean, I'll do anything for Doug. I'll do anything for anybody if they treat me decent. That's the way I am. But yeah, so what do you think about the power of positivity, mind over matter, which is a big thing with the Masons? Because, oh, there's another thing that's part of Agenda um, 2030 is mass hypnotism, which they have practiced in different ways Like, for instance, the posts they pass around on staying positive and stuff. I mean, these people that had the software available to make these extravagant posts, these memes, or had the money to have great music or whatever it is on their YouTube channels and many followers. They're not it's not a mistake that they have all these people following them. It's designed so they can have large amounts of people that they can affect at one time. And they are the so-called elitists. Their kids see their crafts were passed down through the families, whether they were artists or mathematicians or pastors or um, you know, going into the women, which if they were into witchcraft or uh, a, a lower key form of witchcraft, but some of the worst ones in the world being the Eastern Star. And if I have, and I know I have Eastern Star followers, hey, ladies, I'll use the term loosely because that's how you act. Um, Telling it like it is, whatever. Same goes for the Masons. You know, you are what you are, whatever. When you don't abide by the 10 Commandments and the 7 deadly sins, but yet you support an organization that will throw them in the churches to usurp money from other people by acting like you don't sin, but they do, is ridiculous, you know. And hardly ever will you hear a pastor pounding the 7 deadly sins like being a sloth or lustful or greedy or them. They don't really pound that into your brain because they don't want you to really focus on betterment, on bettering yourself, because if you better yourself, you don't feel like you need that church. If you're in touch with God all on your own, I mean, fellowship is nice, don't get me wrong. And I wish that Satan didn't live in the churches, but the church age ended in heaven. And there has not been since Roman times, before, way before, any temple built to God that he resided in a pure manner, because everything's so twisted. Even the offerings and the drinking of the wine and the blood and eating of his flesh and his body, it's just all so satanistic and ritualistic. It's not something God would want people to do because they misconstrued it on a daily basis now. And I tell God, if I forget, to remind me and cover me in this area. But when I'm eating something, I'm always mindful of where that energy comes from and came from. And that's a big deal. If you want to stay healthy, there's a mind over matter thing too. Is understanding this is a daily work that we have to do. It's a daily thing. It's not, you don't have to be remorseful and grovel or, now that's the part of the thankful part, you know. Um, just like taking care of your baby. Uh, they're thankful when they get fed, um, or they should be, or I think they kind of were, you know. But I mean, um, keeping that type of thing in mind for God is a big deal to honor Him, you know, and that's being humble. That's humbling ourselves for him, you know. And I really don't have a problem humbling myself before anybody. You know, if, say, if you were around me and I got pissed off and I swore or something, I would apologize because I shouldn't have lost my temper and displayed that in front of my friends or my family or whatever. And that's the person I am. That's who I am, you know. Now, there's times in my life that I didn't give that to people because they didn't deserve it. If I got angry and said something to them and it needed to be said, and even if it came out a little rough, I will not back down and I will not take it back, you know. So, and that's the facts, you know. That kind of goes back to this positive thing. Don't let people lay this garbage on you that people's emotions aren't up and down all day long every day, because that's what human is, you know. um we all have sorrows and hard times and happy times throughout every day. I'm sure you'll agree. I know some of you have been sick in your life. You know, we've all been sick, but you can think, even when you felt like you were going to die or something, that you still can smile, you know. It's like people in retirement homes, they're on death's doorstep, and some of them have to force a smile, but they will, you know. So that's the people they are inside, like that, you know. So now that's thinking positive. That's greeting God in a righteous manner, you know. That's kind of how we have to treat everybody in the world, is greet them in a righteous manner. On the other hand, there is righteous judgment, and if somebody's crappy to you, you have every right to be crappy back. Only thing is, do it with grace, you know. I mean, you can give them a little bit of shit, especially if they deserve it, but um, do it gracefully, you know. I'm not saying you can't swear at somebody, because some people really need to be cussed out, not cursed upon, but cussed out. Oh, yeah, big time. So, but don't forget, with all this stuff that you're going to see and hear, and if it feels like it's not from God, it's not. It isn't. Don't accept it. Find a logical reason for it. Um, if you can stay, oh, how do I put this? If you can stay in your homes and safe, and kind of ignore what the news is going to try and tell you, try and ignore if they say all kinds of people are getting sick and dying, or if there's bombs or scary stuff in the sky or these type of things. This is all going to pass. It'll go away. I saw things ahead of time a long time ago, and then read what their plans were and everything too. So first I read what their plans were, and then God started giving me visions on stuff. Do you ever just know the phone's gonna ring and it rings? Well, I used to see stuff way ahead of time, and now it's closer. It's like I just know something because I do, you know. Um, that's the connection with the ether. It's the air, it's the people, ourselves are all connected. Like I told people before, if you think of our bodies, think of the 7 point some billion people in the world, and the billions of cells that we have, and the plants, the animals, if you think of everything connected to us, that each little bit of you, every cell is a part of somebody else like that, aside from your soul. I'm talking this physical world, physics, the physical. Um, so, and then thinking like on a scalar level, like the electronics, the ether, how people, like I was just saying, you can know the phone's going to ring. Well, if you think everybody can hear you thinking, or you can hear everybody thinking and tune in with that, that's how God works. That's how God can hear everybody all at the same time, because we're His blood. We're pieces of what is. Everybody is. That's what a lot of people don't want to admit and don't really care about, is the fact that we're all connected. I don't believe we're going to be in the future. I mean, we will be, but we'll be more individual. We're learning how to be more individual and to be able to create like God does. You can create your future with thought. Um, I do believe some people are better at it than others. Others of us have put that control in somebody else's hands, for whether it's from marriage or your parents, but or God. And it's kind of like living on a prayer type of thing. um, I'm kind of like that in a big way. I kind of go with the flow. But then on the other hand, I do have a set number of years that I want to live up by Lake Superior. And I'm not putting that in anybody else's hands. That's my goal, and I'm going to make it happen. That type of thing. So um, it's reaching for the stars for me, but all along, that's kind of, what I do. If you think about it like in a small way, like one day I wanted to make a heart shaped garden, and I did, for my roses, pink roses. And another time I made a round garden, and for vegetables, but I had to move it because the trees got big and it got shady. And I had to move it again because of my horse. I had to move the first one Doug had in the backyard because that was getting shady. So, um, when he first bought this land, it was just a cornfield in a meadow that had been so farmed out and poisoned. It took us a lot of work and hauling in all kinds of manure and plants and all kinds of things to make it thrive again. And now it's absolutely beautiful. So, a lot of hard work, but it's foreseeing something that will be and making it happen, you know. So, but don't forget, don't let fear overtake you. Don't feel lonely without God, because He's in us. He's in our blood. You can feel Him in your heart. He feels us. He knows if you're scared. He'll help you. There's so many times, I mean, I was scared to death. I mean, people were trying to kill me, and all kinds of crazy, crazy things in my life. And it's that instant split second prayer thing, um, being saved, that gave me so much faith. Maybe that's why um, these things happened to me, was to make my faith so unfallible, unbreakable, you know. I think there's a show, it's kind of goofy, but it's called Unsinkable Molly Brown. Yeah, I'm That would describe me. you know. So yeah, don't be overcome with fear. If my kids listen to this, make a decision of where you want to be stuck. If you're stuck for 5 months, everybody, if you can stock up on water and dry goods, I would suggest like if you can make fires or have some kind of little portable stove, um, if you can boil water, if you won't have any city water, um, dried goods like instant rice, canned milk, powdered milk, rice and beans is always a good staples to have around. Nuts, jerkies, dried fruits, whatever you can stock up on. Instant noodles. I know somebody that's getting oodles and noodles because they're pretty easy. You can even eat them raw if you have to. Um, you know, just about anything you could if you had to. The same with powdered milk. If you just had to take a bite of it, it's whey protein. It's going to save your life. Peanuts are kind of cheap. Things that you might want to, if you can. I know a lot of people have limited funds, but my house and home are open for especially my children, and there's some individuals that I've invited here on our land if they need that help. I mean, I'm not going to tolerate anybody's bullshit or like if you go to chop down one of my trees or something without permission or something stupid like that. But I mean, there's a place on my land that I could even help you make a cabin or teepees are quick or whatever. But my kids are always welcome here, and I would make a spot for you and make sure you were safe and all that. So make the decision of where you're going to stay and what you're going to do in life and how you're going to do it. And I would suggest if you can stay away from the public and stay away from vaccines, and if you can, I'd suggest it because I know a lot of people for work, they have to get shots and stuff, and I was kind of scared one time because, like for instance, tuberculosis doesn't really go away in the world. Different things that they said they had cured, and I had when I was a trained medical assistant drug counselor in a rehab center. It was an old tuberculosis hospital. I was a little freaked out because different nursing positions that I had, you have to take your TB shots for tuberculosis. And I couldn't remember if I had a current one or not, that last job I had. And then I had a brief job that I went to right after that, and they wanted me to get another one. I'm like, no, how many times do you have to get redone and in what amount of years? And it was like 10 years apart, for them. And so the last time I didn't really have to do it, but it's like, it was freaky, getting vaccinated with diseases, you know, through my life different times. It's like, no thanks, I'm done with that, you know. Well, I'm going to let you go. I wanted to stress the fact keep a positive outlook as far as mind over matter. Don't buy into any of their bullshit. I don't care if they say 2 million people died in Chicago or whatever and they make it look like that or whatever. I'm not buying it. I really am not. So far, I mean, when there was 36,000 people that die regularly in the United States from the flu every year, and there's only been 26 of this coronavirus so far, it's not spreading as fast as the regular flu. And if more people died from the other flu than they did this, then obviously this isn't as bad as what they're saying. And they're using it as a social experiment to see how far they can push this with shutting down the economy, getting people to panic, that type of thing. Just don't buy into it. Buy into the fact that you're probably going to need food and water enough to stay in your homes and stay out of public and stay away from the military if at all possible, because I've heard people say that they're out there for you and they're going to be there for you and whatever. I don't buy that shit for a minute. I've seen some gung ho shoot 'em up MFers in my life, and anybody that trains to kill and has a gun in their hands, you can stay the F away from me. So I don't buy that shit for a minute. And I was married to a cop, and my grandfather was a police officer. And I wanted to be a police officer, but didn't want to be a smoking pot hypocrite. Even though I'd go like 10 years without smoking or whatever, you know, I still, at that time when I had considered it, didn't want to be a hypocrite. There's no way I was going to bust somebody with some weed when I wanted to smoke it myself, that type of thing. So I'm just saying, trust who you want to trust. I guess that's entirely up to you. And I know there's good people with good intentions that work for the government. And I worked for the government, but it was a school system. But the same one for almost 7 years, 6.5. But I'd be leery. I mean, I'm not going to let them see my fear, none of that shit. Because if they put their gun down and got smart with me, it wouldn't be pretty, you know. Um, we got a gun too, you know. But still, if there's going to be people marching up and down our road with military force and what the F ever, I don't think people in this United States are just going to sit there and say, hey, I'm cool with this and they're out there for my protection. I don't buy it. It's an intimidating thing and I don't like it. I don't consent to any of this crap. So that's the way I feel. I'm a free human being and this is all bullshit. And so are their contrived diseases, their mass hypnotists, all the rest of the shit that you will see. You'll see it. Just decide what you're going to do and how you're going to handle it, because I'm not buying this crap, you know. So I've been preparing for this most of my life, and here it is, the so-called apocalypse, yeah, revelation, the revealing, the unveiling. Yeah, the truth will get out there, and everybody will say, really? Our government never really cared? No, silly. They're all related. Why would they care about you when they're living high and you're still working? They don't care. Just keep working and keep your mouth shut. That's all they care about. Pay your bills. Make sure you pay extra on them credit cards that are mafia run and all those bank loans. Be a good little soldier and do what you're told. That's all they care about. So I love you all. God bless the whole world. Even the bad ones. We gotta God bless them. How's Christ ever gonna go into their hearts if we don't ask him? It's a big deal. So peace, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good night or day wherever you're at.